A famous method actor told Clint Eastwood, "Real actors don't need your direction," after criticizing the lead actress. What Clint did next, without saying a single word, destroyed the man's career and became the most talked-about incident in Hollywood. It was June 2003, on the set of $1 Million Baby in Los Angeles. The production was in its third week, and everything was running like clockwork. Clint Eastwood, now 73 years old, was directing what would become one of his most powerful films, a story about a female boxer, her grizzled trainer, and the brutal reality of dreams that cost everything. The atmosphere on set was focused, almost sacred. Hilary Swank, playing the lead role of Maggie Fitzgerald, had been training for months. She transformed her body, learned to box, and threw herself into the character with complete dedication. Morgan Freeman, playing Eddie "Scrap Iron" Dupreez, brought his characteristic gravitas to every scene. The crew respected them both. Clint respected them both. And then there was Marcus Holloway. Marcus Holloway was what Hollywood calls a serious actor. He trained at Juilliard, studied with renowned coaches in New York, and had recently won acclaim for an intense performance in an independent film about addiction. His agent had lobbied hard to get him cast as Shorell Berry, a supporting character who appears in several key scenes. A boxer with attitude, swagger, someone who represents everything Maggie has to overcome. Clint's casting director had concerns. "He's talented," she told Clint during pre-production, "but he has a reputation." "What kind of reputation?" Clint asked, his voice that familiar rasp. "He's a purist. Thinks method acting is the only legitimate approach. He's been known to challenge other actors on set, question their techniques." Clint was silent for a moment, considering. He'd worked with every type of actor imaginable over his 5 decades in Hollywood. The prepared and unprepared, the generous and the selfish, the professionals and the pretenders. "Give him the part," Clint finally said, "but make sure he understands this isn't a show." Holloway signed the contract, arrived in Los Angeles, and attended the first table read. It should have been straightforward. The cast sitting around a large table, reading through the script, getting a feel for the story's rhythm. But within the first 30 minutes, something became clear. Marcus Holloway had opinions, loud ones. When Hilary Swank read one of Maggie's lines, Holloway interrupted. "That reading feels superficial," he said, not to Clint, but directly to Hilary. "You're not connecting to the character's poverty, her desperation. You're just saying words." The table went silent. Hilary, professional as always, smiled politely. "I appreciate the feedback, Marcus. I'm still finding her voice." "Well, find it faster," Holloway said. "This film doesn't work if the lead is giving a surface-level performance." Clint, sitting at the head of the table, said nothing. He just watched. His face was unreadable, but those who knew him well recognized that look. He was filing information away, drawing conclusions. The first day of shooting with Holloway was a Tuesday. The scene was set in Frankie Dunn's gym, where several boxers are training. Its background atmosphere, establishing the world Maggie is entering. Holloway's character has a few lines, nothing major, but it's important for tone. They did a rehearsal. Clint watched from his director's chair, occasionally making small adjustments. "Morgan, move a bit left. Hilary, try looking toward the ring instead of the bag." "Good." Then they shot take 1. Everything went smoothly until Holloway decided to improvise. Instead of delivering a scripted line, he added an entire monologue about boxing, poverty, and respect. He went on for nearly a minute, dominating the scene, pulling focus from Hilary. "Cut," Clint said quietly. He walked onto the set, approached Holloway. "Marcus, we're going to stick to the script." "I was finding the character's truth," Holloway replied, his tone suggesting this should be obvious. Real moments don't come from just reading lines. They come from inhabiting the space, feeling what the character would feel in the moment. "I understand," Clint said. "Let's go again. Script is written." They shot take 2. Holloway did the same thing. More improvisation, more pulling focus. But this time, he also changed his blocking, moving directly into Hilary's eye line, forcing her to adjust her performance to accommodate him. "Cut," Clint said. He didn't walk over this time. He just looked at Holloway. "Take 3. Script. Blocking. As rehearsed." The third take was worse. Holloway not only improvised again, but he also added physical business, adjusting his gloves loudly during Hillary's lines, shadowboxing to draw the camera's attention, playing to the lens instead of to the other actors. Hillary, remarkably patient, said nothing. Morgan Freeman, watching from the side, shook his head slightly. The crew exchanged glances. Clint called lunch. During the break, Clint's producer, Albert Ruddy, approached him. "We need to talk about Holloway." "I know," Clint said. "He's hijacking scenes. Hillary's being gracious about it, but this can't continue. Do you want me to have a word with him?" Clint thought for a moment. "No, I'll handle it." "How?" "You'll see." After lunch, they reassembled for the afternoon shoot. Same scene, different angle. Clint made an announcement to the crew. "We're going to do something different," he said. "Marcus, I want you to sit this take out. Just watch. Study how the scene works without your character in frame." Holloway looked confused. "But I'm supposed to be in this scene." "Just for this take," Clint said calmly. "Trust me." They shot the scene without Holloway. Hillary and Morgan performed beautifully. The scene had energy, emotion, truth, everything it needed. When Clint called cut, he nodded with satisfaction. "That's good," he said. "Really good. Let's print that." Holloway stepped forward. "Wait, but I wasn't in it. You need coverage with my character." "Actually," Clint said, still in that same calm voice, "I don't think we do. The scene works better without the distraction. We're going to move on." The word distraction hung in the air like smoke. Holloway's face flushed. Distraction? I was bringing depth to that scene. I was giving it layers. "You were giving it your ego," Clint said simply. "Not angry, not loud, just factual. And this film doesn't need that." For the next 2 days, Clint did something remarkable. He didn't fire Holloway. He didn't yell at him. He didn't lecture him. He simply minimized him. Every scene that Holloway was supposed to be prominent and got reframed. His lines were given to other actors. His close-ups were cut from the shot list. When Holloway was in frame, he was always in the background, out of focus. By Thursday, Holloway was furious. He cornered Clint between setups. "You're burying my performance," Holloway said, his voice tight with anger. "You're deliberately sabotaging my work." "I'm making a film," Clint replied. "Your work isn't serving the story. Because you won't let me act. Real actors don't need your direction. They bring their own truth. You're stifling me." Clint looked at him for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. "Real actors," Clint said, "serve the story, not themselves. Real actors make everyone around them better, not smaller. Real actors understand that film is collaboration, not a solo performance. You're not a real actor, Marcus. You're just someone who thinks acting is about showing how much you've studied." Holloway's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around, perhaps hoping someone would defend him. But the crew, Hillary, Morgan, everyone just stood there, silent. "Pack your things," Clint said. "We'll send you your per diem. You're done. You can't fire me. I have a contract." "Read it," Clint said. Section 7. Director has final say on all creative decisions, including casting changes. You're done. Within an hour, Marcus Holloway was off the set. Clint didn't recast the role. He simply wrote the character out, redistributing his few remaining lines to other actors. The film didn't suffer. In fact, it got better. The energy on set improved immediately. Hillary and Morgan worked with even greater chemistry, no longer having to navigate Holloway's ego. But Clint did something else that week, something that showed exactly who he was as a director. He pulled Hillary aside one afternoon. "I want to apologize," he said. Hillary looked surprised. "For what?" "For letting that situation go on as long as I did. You handled it with grace, but you shouldn't have had to. That's on me." "Clint, it's fine." "Really? It's not fine," Clint said. Part of my job is protecting the actors who are doing the work, the ones who show up prepared, who respect the process, who make everyone better. You're doing incredible work on this film, and I should have shut that down on day one." Hillary's eyes welled up slightly. "Thank you," she said quietly. The story of Marcus Holloway's firing spread through Hollywood like wildfire, but it wasn't told the way these stories usually are. There were no leaked emails, no anonymous sources, no he-said-she-said drama. The story spread because 75 crew members who witnessed it told the same version. A professional director removing an unprofessional actor. Simple, clean, justified. Holloway tried to spin it. His publicist released a statement about creative differences and divergent artistic visions. But too many people knew the truth. Word got around that Holloway had been fired not for being talented, but for being toxic, for putting his ego above the work, for making himself bigger at everyone else's expense. Within 6 months, Holloway's career had stalled completely. Directors who'd been interested suddenly weren't. Casting directors who'd taken his calls stopped returning them. The independent film he'd been praised for became the high point of his career, not the launching pad. Meanwhile, $1 Million Baby went on to be one of the most critically acclaimed films of 2004. It won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director for Clint, Best Actress for Hilary Swank, and Best Supporting Actor for Morgan Freeman. The film grossed over $216 million worldwide against a $30 million budget. It's now considered one of Clint Eastwood's masterpieces. Marcus Holloway is never mentioned in discussions of the film. He doesn't appear in any of the behind-the-scenes documentaries. His scenes were completely cut, and his name doesn't appear in the credits. He exists only as a Hollywood cautionary tale. The actor who tried to outdirect Clint Eastwood. Years later, in 2009, a film student asked Clint about leadership on set during a masterclass at the Sundance Institute. Clint's answer was characteristically brief. "You lead by example," he said. "You show up prepared. You respect people's time. You make decisions that serve the story, not your ego. And when someone can't do those things, you remove them, not because you're on a power trip, but because 75 other people are doing their jobs perfectly, and they deserve to work in an environment that honors that." Someone asked, "Have you ever had to fire an actor?" Clint smiled slightly. "Once or twice. It's never pleasant, but sometimes it's necessary. The work comes first. Always." The crew members who were there that day in 2003 still talk about it. They remember Holloway's improvised monologues, his constant need to be the center of attention, his dismissiveness toward Hillary. But mostly, they remember Clint's response. No drama, no yelling, just a quiet, decisive removal of the problem, followed by an apology to the person who'd been disrespected. "That's real leadership," one of the grips said years later in an interview. Clint didn't try to manage Holloway's ego. He didn't try to make it work. He saw the problem, assessed whether it was fixable, realized it wasn't, and removed it. 3 days. That's all it took. And then he apologized to Hillary for not doing it sooner. "I've worked on 100 sets since then, and I've never seen anything like it." The lesson of Marcus Holloway isn't about talent. By all accounts, he was talented. It's about character, about understanding that in collaborative art forms, ego is poison, that making others small doesn't make you big. That real artistry is about serving something larger than yourself. Clint Eastwood has directed over 30 films. He's worked with hundreds of actors, and the overwhelming majority of them speak about him with reverence. Not because he's easy, not because he's soft, but because he's fair. He demands professionalism, but he gives it in return. He expects respect, but he offers it freely. And when someone violates that compact, when someone decides their process is more important than everyone else's work, Clint draws a line. That line is simple. Serve the story or leave. To this day, "Real actors don't need your direction" is a phrase you'll never hear on a Clint Eastwood set, because everyone who works with him understands the truth. Real actors need great directors. Great directors need real actors. And both need to check their egos at the door. If this story of leadership and humility resonated with you, Share it with someone who needs to remember that talent without character is worthless, and that the greatest artists are those who make everyone around them better. Have you ever seen someone confuse confidence with arrogance? Share your thoughts in the comments below.